The Bosphorus is 17 miles long, half a mile wide in places, and it divides a continent. Not a country, not a city, a continent. You can stand on a ferry midway across and see Asia behind you and Europe in front, or the reverse, depending on which way you board and which way you decide to look. Most mornings, 15 million people do not think about this. They are thinking about where they need to be by 9. Istanbul is the only city in the world that sits on 2 continents. That fact appears on tourist maps and travel blog headers, and by the time you have heard it for the 3rd time, it starts to feel like furniture. But spend a few weeks here and you begin to understand it is not geography trivia. It is the organizing principle of everything: the traffic, the identity, the price of an apartment, and the particular way people here carry an argument about who they actually are and where they actually belong. Istanbul has been continuously occupied for nearly 3,000 years. The Greeks called it Byzantium. The Romans called it Constantinople. The Ottomans called it Constantinia in their official documents, and informally Istanbul, meaning the city of Islam. The name softened over the centuries into Istanbul. The Republic kept it. The water did not need renaming. The ferries carry about 200,000 passengers across the Bosphorus every day. The crossing takes 20 minutes. On the upper deck in the early morning, the light is a color that does not have a simple name. A cold gold, becoming warm before it fully arrives, reflecting off white tanker hulls moving south toward the Marmara Sea. If you commute from Kadıköy on the Asian side to Karaköy on the European side, you do this crossing every weekday and in reverse every evening. Most people, after a few months, stop looking at the water. A few people, after several years, still do. The Asian side and the European side are not the same city. Istanbulites will tell you this freely, even proudly, as though the contradiction is a feature rather than a problem. The European side has Sultanahmet, Beyoğlu, Galata, the Grand Bazaar, the tourism infrastructure, the historic sites that appear on every travel list. It also has the noise, the crowds, and the particular exhaustion that comes from being in a place that is always performing itself for visitors. The Asian side has Kadıköy. Kadıköy is what parts of Istanbul look like when they are not particularly trying. The market runs through streets that have been holding a market on the same days for longer than anyone's grandmother can remember. Cheese stalls, dried fruit sellers, a man with a weighing scale for olives. There is a tea house on the corner of the main square that has been in the same location since the 1930s. The owner's grandfather opened it. The owner's son will probably close it when the rents make the mathematics impossible. That day has not come yet. Beşiktaş, on the European side, is where the argument between these two sensibilities is most visible. It sits between Beyoğlu's tourist infrastructure and the Bosphorus palaces, and in the last decade it has been transformed by young professionals, cold brew coffee cafes, and rent prices that have tripled in 4 years. The people who lived there before have not all left, but many are wondering how much longer the arithmetic holds. Istanbul has always been a city of arrivals. Greeks, Romans, Genoese merchants, Ottoman administrators, refugees from everywhere, and now digital nomads and short-term rental tourists. The city absorbs these arrivals without fully incorporating them, the way a river absorbs a tributary and continues to be called by the same name. Whether this is resilience or erosion is a question the city seems genuinely undecided about. Sultanahmet is the district where 3,000 years of occupation are most literally visible. Within a few hundred meters, you can stand at the hippodrome, which the Romans built in the 3rd century for chariot racing. You can walk to Hagia Sophia, built as a cathedral in 537 AD, converted to a mosque after the Ottoman conquest of Constantinople in 1453, converted to a museum by Ataturk in 1934, and reconverted to a mosque in 2020. The building has had 4 identities in 1,500 years. The management of that history is left, largely, to its very patient staff. The Topkapı Palace sits on the hill where the Golden Horn meets the Sea of Marmara. The Ottomans chose this site because whoever controls that waterway controls commerce between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. For 4 centuries, the sultans ran an empire of 30 million people from this hilltop. The Grand Bazaar opened in 1461 and has been operating continuously since. 61 streets, 4,000 shops, a ventilation system that has been confusing architects for centuries. The goods range from Ottoman metalwork to phone cases printed with the Turkish flag. The bazaar does not distinguish between these categories. It only distinguishes between those who sell and those who buy. What the layering of history does to a city is harder to describe than the history itself. Istanbul has been conquered, burned, rebuilt, and renamed. It has been the capital of 3 empires. It is currently the largest city in a country that has been applying to join the European Union since 1987 and being politely declined since approximately the same date. The city carries all of this with a familiarity that resembles lightness, without quite being it. The thing that distinguishes living in a city from visiting it is the small infrastructure of daily necessity. In Istanbul, this is organized around tea. The tulip-shaped glass, ince belly, thin-waisted, is the standard unit of social measurement. You drink one when you arrive at a meeting, one to mark the end of a transaction, one because it would be odd not to. The tea is black, strong, served without milk. Refusing tea is not quite an insult, but it is the kind of refusal that requires a small explanation. There is a word in Turkish, keyif, that translates approximately to a state of quiet pleasure, of being unhurried and undisturbed. Keyif is the correct attitude for tea drinking. It is also the correct attitude for Istanbul at its best. The neighborhood bakery operates at 4 in the morning. By 7, the first customers have collected warm bread. By 8, the bread is gone. This is not unusual. This is Tuesday. On a normal day, the neighborhood bakery produces 1,200 simit, the sesame-encrusted bread rings that are the closest thing Istanbul has to a universal food, and runs out before 9. A man sells them from a cart on the Galata Bridge at the same time every morning, stacked on a tray that he carries on his head without apparent effort, and has been doing so, by his account, since he was 19. Balat is the neighborhood where the gentrification of Istanbul is most visually striking because it is happening to buildings that are already interesting. Historically, the Jewish Quarter, one of the oldest continuous Jewish communities in Europe, established after the expulsion from Spain in 1492, its wooden buildings are painted yellow, rust and pale green, stacked on a hillside above the Golden Horn. In the last 5 years, the neighborhood has acquired art galleries, coffee shops, and a weekend tourist circuit. The people who have lived there for generations watch this with an expression that combines something like pride with something else that is harder to name. A meal in a family-run meyhane, the Turkish equivalent of a tavern, which is nothing like a tavern, begins with cold mezes, continues through hot dishes, and ends with reiki poured over ice until the water clouds the glass. The pace is not the pace of a restaurant trying to turn tables. It is the pace of an evening. This distinction, small in description, is enormous in experience. Istanbul sits on the North Anatolian Fault. The fault produced a 7.6 earthquake in Izmit in 1999 that killed more than 17,000 people. Istanbul sits directly over the section geologists consider most likely to produce the next major rupture. Most of the buildings currently standing were not built to standards required to survive a major earthquake. Istanbulites know this. Some know it precisely. Almost all have had the conversation about whether their building is safe, and almost all have arrived at an answer that involves some combination of probably not, and what can you do? The city has invested in retrofitting infrastructure and demolishing the most visibly dangerous structures. It has also grown by 5 million people in 20 years. Much of that housing built quickly during a period when building code enforcement was inconsistent. Rents increased by roughly 400% between 2021 and 2024, driven by inflation, currency depreciation, and an influx of both internal migrants and new foreign residents. Cihangir, historically home to writers and artists who chose it for cheapness and Bosphorus views, is now among the most expensive addresses in the city. The people who made it attractive have, in many cases, moved elsewhere. The people who can afford it want to live there because of who once lived there. The city has seen this pattern before, in other neighbourhoods, at other times, and has not yet found a resolution. In the late afternoon, the tankers move through the Bosphorus one after another, carrying oil and grain and containers of goods the world has ordered from somewhere and needs somewhere else. They move at the pace of large objects in water, which suggests they are not entirely convinced by the urgency of their destination. The lights on the Asian shore come on first, because the Asian shore faces west and the sun goes behind Europe. Then the European shore answers. For a few minutes, both are lit, and the strait between them is dark. From the ferry deck, looking neither left nor right, but straight ahead at the water, you cannot tell which continent you are traveling toward. The choice arrives only when you step off the boat. The question of whether Istanbul belongs to East or West, ancient or modern, secular or religious, does not resolve the way questions about timetables or distances resolve. Istanbul's answer to the question is Istanbul. The city exists as a refusal to choose, stretched across a waterway that connects two seas and divides two worlds, functioning on both sides simultaneously, as it has for 3,000 years. The ferries cross at dawn and at dusk. The tea glasses empty and fill. The bread is gone by 9. The question remains open.